Let's talk about Yellowjackets, Season 3, Episode 9. We are 2 episodes away from the finale, and we still don't have the promo release yet officially, so I'm not going to be able to use pictures and stuff like that. But if you did watch the episode during Showtime last night, they did show a promo, so we're going to discuss it. We're also going to talk about what potentially comes next. But the next episode is called How the Story Ends. And I'm curious, what story is this? Is this the overall story, or is this somebody's story? That's what I'm really debating here, what this is about, but we'll get to it. So before we get into the whole discussion and theories, let's go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're subscribed to our channel. We talk Yellowjackets every week, theories, all of that. And we have 2 other theory videos coming out this week about Pit Girl and also who burned the cabin. We still don't know that. So that will be discussed 2 episodes this week, 2 extra videos this week before we get to episode 9 on Friday. So 4 Yellowjacket videos in a week's time. And then we'll talk about a whole way that maybe we can do a watch party of the last episode. So that's going to be discussed next week. So let's get into it, how the story ends. So the previous episode ended with Shauna finally confronting who she believes was sending her all of these signs and taunting her and potentially putting her in a freezer, cutting her brakes, and just wanting her dead, she thinks. And that was Melissa, who sent the dat tape, which of course was a tape that Hannah had used to record their first encounter with the Yellowjackets. And of course, Hannah is the frog scientist, we've come to find out. And the other frog scientist actually got killed by Lottie, and they actually had somebody who was helping them get through the woods named Kodiak. And now Hannah and Kodiak have been taken hostage by the Yellowjackets, and the Yellowjackets said, Kodiak, get us out of here and everything will be good. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe you'll be dead. But hey, let's see what happens, right? Like, let's go through this together. It seems not all the Yellowjackets were eager to leave, though, as we saw that Lottie was staying, Shauna was staying, and Ty was staying. And Nat said, all right, everybody else, let's go. And Shauna said, no one's leaving. Everybody has to stay. And that's pretty much where the teenage timeline ended. Now, Shauna, of course, met up with Melissa in the adult timeline. Melissa said that she had faked her death, and she had come to find Hannah's daughter, Alex. They eventually fell in love, got married, and now have a simple, boring life. She says she didn't do anything else to Shauna besides send the tape. So Melissa says, I didn't cut the brakes, I didn't lock you in a freezer, I didn't leave you that phone to find. That was not me. Shauna doesn't seem to believe this. They get into a scuffle, which ends with Shauna biting off a piece of Melissa's arm and feeding it to her. And that's where we just end there. So a ton of craziness has ensued here, and Shauna is always the prime suspect of them all, right? Shauna really has spiraled a ton, and it's always interesting reading when we see comments or on online threads and forums. People say, I thought Shauna was the most level-headed, but now we're seeing that she really was crazy. So it makes sense how Nat felt about Shauna in the first season and the second season. But now we're seeing that Shauna completely has lost it in both timelines. So what is coming next? So IMDb has shared a picture here where we see Melissa bandaged up. We see Van in Melissa's house, and it looks like they're having a conversation here. I'm curious what that's going to be. So of course, first things first, Van makes it. Van's going to make it out alive. And we had just heard from the doctors that she was going to pretty much not make it and that they should look for alternative care so she can have a peaceful passing. Evil Ty basically said, I'm going to save Van whether you like it or not. So what does this mean? Who does Evil Ty kill? Well, we don't know if the man that Ty was trying to kill at the end of the last episode actually worked as a sort of like sacrifice. She even said, does that even count? Because he just had a heart attack and died without her doing anything, but she was still there. So we don't know what's going to happen, but we do know that Van is coming back, as you can see from this picture right here. Now, I cannot get any pictures from the promo. As I said, it was only aired during the whole thing last night. And it was crazy that they don't upload this trailer, because they usually upload these trailers fairly quickly, even after episode on Friday. So I don't know why they haven't uploaded the episode just yet, the promo for the next episode, but the episode is called How the Story Ends. So at the beginning, we see Shauna and we see Melissa right where we left them in the adult timeline, with Shauna trying to feed a piece of Melissa's body to her and telling her to take it, right? We also see in this teaser that the teens are going to get at it about who's leaving, who's not, with Nat saying you can't force people to stay, and Shauna saying I just did, while she holds a gun as well. We see the ensuing road chase that is going to be a big thing that we've seen in the trailer for season 3 that's going to be between Shauna and Melissa. And I think that we also see maybe Misty, Van, and Ty make it here as well, and that eventually leads to them going back to Melissa's home. And I think that we will see Shauna maybe make a drastic decision in the teenage timeline where she decides to take out Kodiak, because Kodiak is the only one who knows how to get out of the woods. It takes 6 days, and I think that Shauna is very persistent that nobody's going to leave, and she really can't hold all of these people back. So the only way is to really hinder their escape is to take out the only person that can take them out, which is Kodiak. And Kodiak seems to be getting into a position where he's getting kind of pissed that his whole life and all of this is in the hands of these teenage girls, and I think that sort of outburst might make some of the other girls turn on him pretty quickly and go to Shauna's side. Shauna is pretty intimidating to a lot of these girls, so it seems that they might easily flip on Nat and go to her. Now, I've had my theories about what's going to happen with the teenage years, but we'll talk about that in a bit. Like I said, Van seems to survive. We do get a glimpse of her in the hospital in this new promo that was released, and then we of course see her up and Adam at Melissa's house, so curious to see what Van did to get all of this to happen, but we shall see. But the biggest thing in this trailer that everybody's talking about is Patricia is here, as everybody says. The pit is full effect here. The pit we've been trying to decipher since the first episode, like the very first scenes in Yellowjackets showcased Pit Girl, Pit, and Antler Queen. Now it looks like we are starting to get to that part of the story. Now, Yellowjackets is supposed to supposedly go for 5 seasons. There's no word on it as of recently how many more seasons. I could potentially see 1 more season, and if they do 2 seasons, I'm curious how they would do that, but I potentially see the 4th season could be a grand finale season of sorts that leads us into Pit Girl, Antler Queen, all of those questions answered. Now, Yellowjackets are pretty close to rescue. I believe they have to survive 1 more winter and then they would be rescued. That's how the timeline goes. We're in the fall right now, so winter is looming ahead. Season 4 could potentially cover all of winter, and season 5 could potentially cover end of winter into rescue and what comes next and in the future, right? So if they do fact have 2 more episodes, the next episode after this one is called Full Circle, which means that everything comes full circle, right? And that makes me believe that we go back to Pit Girl from season 1. That's the full circle, right? We do have a description of the plot for episode 10, but for episode 10 Full Circle, it says things turn frigid as bloody new alliances get built and spilled. It's our time, right now, down here in the new Queen's Court. Eat up, drink deep, and descend. Interesting little plot right there. So here are my theories for what we see in episode 9, how the story ends. So after that promo and after what we now know what episode 10 kind of is entailing, it seems that we will see the sort of breakage of the group. Like I've said before in my theory videos, I always thought that the Yellowjackets had to split. It's a lot of different budding ideas that have been brewing since the last season, and I think season 3 really highlighted those even more and brought them to the surface. Nat is very much so different than Shauna as a leader, as a queen. I think Shauna is more ruthless, she is more aggressive, more spontaneous, whereas I think Nat is a bit more calm, collective, and really likes to be more human in a way. And I think that that's where we're going to see some of the girls split up as well, because some of them are going to go with Shauna, whether it's from intimidation or maybe admiration, and some will stay with Nat because they believe Nat is more level-headed and will get them out of here, because Shauna looks like she just wants to stay here. And of course Lottie wants to stay here because she says she feels more free, and Ty has this sort of sense, she says, just a feeling, she says. So we're going to see a clear divide happen, I think, at the end of this episode. Now, there's some pictures that we've seen in the previous trailer for season 3 that haven't come to life yet, and those are the snowy scenes, which I thought was so interesting. Now, of course, with winter looming now, I think we're going to see these scenes play out, and what I think these scenes are representing is the divided groups going up against each other, maybe in an effort to keep one at bay or sort of not from leaving. I don't think this is in fact a hunting type scenario. They just want to keep them here because I think the way they'll see it is if they go out on their way, they get rescued, then of course they'll come looking for them, and maybe they don't want to be rescued. And I think that's what's going to make the other group be like, you know what, we can't let them get rescued or get out of here, because then we have to go back and get rescued as well, and we don't want that. So I think that's what's going to lead to a big sort of quote unquote war between the Yellowjackets of, we don't want you to get rescued, we're not going to kill you, but you're not going to get rescued either. And I'm curious to see how the other ones react to this, because why wouldn't you want to get rescued if you want to get rescued? So the next two should be interesting for the season. Do we finally see Pit Girl at the end of this? I'm very curious about that. If we do, it could potentially be how the season ends and all the fingers are pointing that it's Hannah, because of course Hannah does in fact die, and I think that Hannah would make sense as Pit Girl. But who is Antler Queen? Some people have theorized before that it could be Travis. Like, we just got a whole diversion there, right? Because Travis was never the leader of sorts, but what if they in fact make Travis the Antler Queen when they draw cards? And that would kind of be hinted there with Travis seeing the pit, right? He is the one in the trailer or promo for the next episode that is looking down at the pit that has been made now with the spikes. And that would be crazy right there. But I really do believe, too, it could just be Shauna. I think all the fingers have pointed that Shauna is very much so calculative and very, very aggressive. And even Lottie says that everybody was scared of Shauna. So Shauna could definitely assert herself in that position right there. Now, in the adult timeline, what is going to happen? So Melissa clearly, I feel, has something else up her sleeve. She has like a smile in the promo when she's driving off. And I'm curious to see if Melissa is in fact the one that was messing with Shauna or wasn't. Now, if Melissa isn't the one messing with Shauna, who could it be? There's been some theories here and there about Walter, which I believe as well. Walter is definitely somebody who I believe could be in fact going after Shauna. He has been doing it since the beginning. He feels that she is the one that killed Lottie, if in fact it even was Shauna. I also have a theory Walter could be responsible for that in an effort to frame Shauna and bring down the Yellowjackets, as he feels like this would be the best for Misty. I had the theory more like hardened by the fact that I believed that Walter was the kid of the scientist Hannah. Now we know it's not. So that theory is a little bit crumbly, right? So my new theory is that Callie has been the one that was messing with Shauna, and I discussed this at the end of my other video, which I did for the ending of episode 8. I believe Callie has been sort of behind all of this, as she has come to find out who Shauna really is from investigating, from talking to Lottie and all of this. I think Callie believes her mom is unstable and dangerous and shouldn't be around her family anymore. So the easiest way to get Shauna away from her family is having her committed or whatever, and so sending her on this wild goose hunt in order to get Melissa, who Callie kind of made it seem is the one responsible for this, saying the tape might be linked to Lottie's death, and not giving Shauna the note that Melissa wrote to her. It sort of makes Shauna go deep into this whole psychosis and crazy rundown in an effort to take down Melissa, who in fact is like not guilty of any of these things, but it was Callie who was just driving her crazy just to get her away from the family and all that. That's a big theory. I don't know. Could Callie be very calculative and very much so like determined to take down her mother because of how crazy she's been in the past and all of that? Possibly. I don't know. But I'm curious if this is the case, how Shauna reacts to this. Does Shauna go up against her own family and try to take them down as well? It's going to be crazy, but those are my theories going into this next episode. 2 episodes. I believe we will see the Antler Queen be named. I believe Teen Shauna is going to take drastic measures in an effort to keep the Yellowjackets, and that could potentially mean killing Kodiak in cold blood so that they're not able to leave since they won't have a guide. That eventually leads to a divide between the Yellowjackets, where we see 2 different groups, one with Nat, one with Shauna, and we see that that also leads into a sort of turf war of sorts, or a captive mode where they want to keep the other Yellowjackets so they don't seek rescue, and then they don't get rescued and they can stay out here in the wilderness. And that's the scenes we see in the snow in the trailer. In the adult timeline, like I said, I truly believe Callie could be the one responsible for messing with Shauna, because she thinks Shauna is dangerous and wants her out of her life. And the only way to do that could possibly be just having her institutionalized or taken away. Like, I don't know. Those are my theories going into the next final 2 episodes. I'm very much so hooked, but we will have a theory video on Pit Girl, and we will have a theory video on who burned the cabin, with some of my leading theories on both of those subjects and the Antler Queen. So stay tuned for those videos. We'll have the Antler Queen one on Wednesday, and we'll have the cabin burning one on Thursday. So don't miss out by hitting that subscribe button, notification bell. We're on the road to 40,000 subscribers, less than 300 to go. Super excited about that. And I'll see all of you next time. Stay safe, stay positive.